primarily focused on Ontario. We're having our convention the same time they are. Good luck at the federal Conservative convention, but that's going to be up to them to determine if they want to move forward with Pierre Poilievre.
It's not something that I've been focused on. I mean, I won't be attending the convention. I'm not a member of the federal party, so I've kind of been focused on my Nova Scotia priorities.
We're in an environment that is, very much politically charged, not just within our provinces or our nation, but, I think we're seeing that in fairness around the world. And so I don't know if the number will be as high as what, traditionally leaders have expected or received, but I think you'll see a strong, my view would be you'd see a strong mandate.
Three Conservative premiers there weighing in on Pierre Poilievre's upcoming leadership review and whether he'll get the votes required to stay on as leader of the federal Conservative Party. That was the provincial side of things. CTV producers right here in our bureau also asked federal members of parliament whether they think Mr. Poilievre will get enough votes to stay on as leader and if he should remain in the role.
Whether Mr. Poilievre survives the vote this week? Thoughts on whether Mr. Poilievre survives the vote this weekend?
Oh, I would say definitely.
And should he stay on afterwards?
I sure hope so.
Thoughts on whether Mr. Poilievre survives the vote this weekend?
He will.
And should he stay on afterwards as leader?
He will.
Poilievre this weekend, does he survive the vote?
Well, he's the leader of the Conservative Party, so the member will decide.
Any thoughts from the opposition side of the bench?
No, I have no thoughts.
Oh, I might have some thinking about that, but none that I will share with you.
And would you care to share if you think that he will win?
That's part of what I will not tell you.
The front bench is back to look ahead to that vote. We've got Sharon Carr, Laura D'Angelo, Sebastian Skamsky, and Jamie Ellerton assembled. Jamie, I'll start with you. As you look ahead, first of all, let's start with a bit of your reaction to the premiers there and how they characterize the upcoming vote and your thoughts as you look ahead to that vote as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real surprise in what you heard from Premier Ford or Premier Houston there. That rift with the federal party has been quite pronounced in public for quite some time. I think the more circumspect and response from Premier Moe is probably what stands out most, and I think kind of shows the challenges as to where the federal Conservative Party is today. There are a lot of people who are seeing real updates on the economy. I think of canola farmers in Saskatchewan specifically, when I think of Premier Moe, and they're seeing some kind of results. And so I think the enthusiasm for federal Conservative politics right now is taking a bit of a backseat to the practical realities of the times we're living through.
How much, Laura, is this vote about a kind of the, the party feeling like the leader represents them versus his ability to fight off the Liberals in the next general election? Like, generally, when you look at parties and when they hold these kinds of leadership votes, what do you think will be top of mind?
Right now, I mean, I'm not a Conservative, but I think what is shocker. I think what is probably top of mind is party stability, which I actually think is a little bit different. Because when you look at Pierre Poilievre's personal numbers, he's closer to Max Bernier right now than Mark Carney. There's not a lot of hope for the Conservatives around Pierre Poilievre specifically, but they've also been through a lot of leaders in the past 10 years. And Pierre Poilievre has built quite a machine around himself. There is a lot of organization there. And so my guess is that Conservatives are probably voting more based on party stability and ability to continue to grow that than necessarily around Pierre Poilievre.
So Liberals and journalists and pundits can guess, Sebastian, but you're a Conservative. You tell me, like, what is important to you as you look ahead at that vote? What do you think your fellow party members will be thinking about when they cast their ballot?
I think they'll be thinking about the great gains that we are still to make, that Mr. Poilievre has already made in the last election and that we're looking forward to in the next one. I think they'll look at the recently released, for example, fundraising numbers where Conservatives continue to blow out the Liberals out of the water when it comes to raising money and making sure that our machine is ready. And I think they'll look to Mr. Poilievre's vision for the country, his message of hope to Canadians, the unity that he will present around especially domestic issues that Mr. Carney is so frequently not present for and doesn't seem to completely understand or be in tune with the average Canadian. So I look forward to seeing Mr. Poilievre's speech. I look forward to seeing the message he charts across, and I know that my fellow delegates will be very eager and keen to cast their ballots in favor for him.
Yeah, some of that fundraising data just came out. Both the Conservative and Liberal parties had record years. The Conservatives raised $48 million last year, Sharon. The Liberals raised $29 million. What does that tell you as you look ahead to the vote, and also about the level of political engagement right now?
Yeah, so listen, I think that the amount of money they've raised is actually impressive. Like, no one can say that that's not a number that we should actually be paying attention to. But I think what folks are going to be looking at is his tone, his tenor, what is he saying? Generally speaking, in the history of campaigns, Liberals have always campaigned kind of based on hope, whereas people like Pierre Poilievre, and not the Conservative Party, but people like Pierre Poilievre campaign on fear. And I think we are going to see some of that come out of what he says, what he does. But again, we're looking at a time when the Liberals are polling higher than the Conservatives are, and what he says there is going to matter. He's definitely brought in a large number of new voters, but not enough to sway people that are center, more left-swinging towards his base. So I think we're going to still see a very interesting, fearful type of message. Liberals are bad. Donald Trump is doing this. Donald Trump is doing that. But how is he going to unite everyone together? I think unity is the one thing that I think he lacks. So I think that's what we're going to want to wait and see.
Jamie, let me ask you about that, because we've talked a bit about this actually both on radio and on TV, but there's a whole bunch of polling out. We spoke to Nick Nanos on the show last night. Leger today has one poll that most significantly shows the Liberals ahead of the Conservatives, but every other poll right now shows a very interesting phenomenon in that Mark Carney's personal numbers, the Prime Minister's personal numbers, far exceed Mr. Poilievre, Pierre Poilievre's, but the parties are actually within, the margin of error of each other in polling. How do you explain that, and what are the implications for Mr. Poilievre there, Jamie?
I think part of, if you had to add another poll to that mix, is when you look at what David Coletto's numbers had to say in terms of the enthusiasm, let's take a step back and remember that the people who are going to be voting in this review process are Conservative Party members who are elected as delegates in their electoral district association and are going to Calgary for this convention. And so I think when you look at the level of enthusiasm that Pierre has brought into the party and how that's manifested itself with those kind of 41% performance and really impressive numbers on the machine stuff that my co-panelist was just talking about, that machine is what's going to be taking a vote in Calgary. And so I think he's going to pass through this convention with flying colors. And I think there's no one actively organizing against Pierre. That's just a fact. And so I think he will be given a chance to lead the party into the next election, whenever that's be. If the Liberals are going to orchestrate something this spring or beyond, all the politics as usual will play that out. And so I think he's going to be given that chance. And so on the one hand, this weekend, he needs to go through the process and rightfully earn his review vote to have that chance. And on another, I think he fundamentally needs to turn the page and start writing Pierre's next chapter. And he can only do that. You're going to have, I think, if he goes down a road of kind of what Sharon just suggested, which I'd be surprised if he does, which is kind of the best hits of what you'd expect from Pierre for the past 5 years, then I don't think he's really writing a new chapter. He's writing a new page on an old chapter. I think he's got to find a way to demonstrate to Canadians to kind of tap into that hope and substance that says, I get it, we're going to do this together. You saw hints of it in his response to the Davos speech, agreeing on what's best for Canada and the kind of a pan-Canadian consensus there. And the growth as a leader, I think, is ultimately what determines whether or not Pierre wins or succeeds. And ultimately, he's the driver of that.
Laura, I won't ask you in this question what Conservatives think. I'll ask actually what Liberals think, because my perception has been that they're increasingly dismissive of the threat that the Conservatives pose to them, and in particular, Mr. Poilievre poses to them. Do you think that's a fair assessment, and do you think that's smart or not?
It seems like a fair assessment right now that Liberals are a little bit too dismissive of Pierre Poilievre, who, frankly, has proven himself to be a very adept leader and politician, right? Yes, he lost the last election. He also got them over 40%. It isn't a complete failure by any stretch. I don't know that they're going to be forever dismissive. I think they are dismissive in this moment because right now there is no election, and the biggest thing on Pierre Poilievre's mind is leadership. I don't think that will hold at the end of this weekend. And I think all of a sudden we will start to see the Liberals being a little bit more aggressive, or at least targeted in their communications and the policy they're putting out to counteract some of the things that Pierre Poilievre is really good at. For example, affordability and cost of living, which we're already seeing this week, crime, many things that we know are his bread and butter. I think all of a sudden we're going to see the Liberals shift.
I have 1 minute each for Sebastian and a minute for Sharon as well. Sebastian, is I'm sure you enjoy the conversation as lots of Conservative supporters do about, like, what's the pivot, what happens next, but what does happen after this leadership review in your view? Like, what does Mr. Poilievre need to do?
Well, I think he's going to continue fighting for, I think, the everyday challenges that Canadians face. He has a very unique ability amongst, I would say, every leader right now on the federal scene, in actually being able to connect and understand those challenges firsthand through a lived experience. And he's going to continue to be their champion. I think, us in the pundit class, the media kind of elites are not really getting the fact that a lot of people are struggling and they're suffering, and that it's not an easy ride for the average Canadian. And so he's going to continue to speak to that and be their champion and be their voice of hope.
I think if I understand that right, and what I've heard from others, it's I would never take away from Sharon the fact that there are a lot of people that definitely are suffering and that certainly feel that's an integral part to their experience right now. What I keep hearing is, like, what you describe as sort of negativity or a lack of hopelessness is meant to be a reflection of that reality. And that resonates with people. Maybe not as many people as, for example, the message you talk about the Liberals delivering, but it resonates with millions of Canadians, in fact, who voted for them.
It absolutely does, and I think that is something Pierre Poilievre has been very good at, is communicating and getting that message across to people. The issue is sometimes it doesn't come up with a solution. It's really easy to fear and use your message to have fear in it to get people riled up. But you also need to have a leader that people can have confidence in when you're dealing with global trade wars, because that all comes down to affordability. And I don't think Pierre Poilievre is able to do that. He talks a lot still about the carbon tax. He has been unable to pivot to actually talk about what affordability will look like. But that being said, he is an excellent communicator when it comes down to getting to the nitty-gritty of what impacts people in a day-to-day in their lives. I just don't think that is enough to give the Canadian public as a whole the confidence to have someone like him as a leader of the country.
Okay, I will leave it there. Great discussion, guys. Appreciate it very much. Laura D'Angelo, Sharon Carr, Sebastian Skamsky, and Jamie Ellerton, our front bench.